All right. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about Booksnaps. Booksnaps is actually a, an idea, a strategy that was kind of birthed out of a problem-solving situation. So I'm going to take you back a little bit and talk a little bit about when I was a little girl. When I was a little girl, I grew up in a home where my parents were not ready to be parents when they had me. And so they struggled through life's decisions. And what happened was school became a safe place for me. It was the place where I went to feel loved and to feel at home. And so I love school so much that when this little girl looked up to my second grade teacher, I was struggling so bad in school. I couldn't read. I struggled with phonics, but I loved school. I was the one who was running to get in and not out, as Dave Burgess says in Teach Like a Pirate. So when this little girl looked up to my second grade teacher, I said, I want to learn to read. And she said, then you're going to learn to read. It was like a magic wand. But I didn't learn to read immediately. She tutored me every single day when I got off of the bus. And you know, I don't really know the strategy she used. I'm talking to you today about Booksnaps, a strategy for reading. But honestly, I don't know what Mrs. S used to teach me to read, but I know she showed me a lot of love, had a snack waiting for me every single day, and I learned to read that year and have never struggled in school again. So the truth is, I do think if we could find a way to connect with kids and teach them to read, they can be successful in life. And sometimes you just need one person to believe in you. But sometimes you need an administrator or you need a teacher to find a way to connect to something that's relevant to you. So this is how my son, he's 16 years old, and this is how he connects with the world. He's constantly on Snapchat. So much so that it drives me absolutely bonkers. So I told Caleb, I said, you know what, bud, we're getting that app off of your phone. It's driving me crazy. And he's like, you don't ever do that to the teachers. You always say if they like fidget spinners, then you use fidget spinners in the lessons. I'm like, oh, burn, good one. So I started thinking, how could we use Snapchat for edu-awesomeness? And I love to read, and this is typically what my books look like, highlighted, Post-it notes all over the place. But how do we use that and connect it with this app that kids love, this language that they speak all day long? I was like, I could be on to something. So I said, Caleb, come downstairs and teach mom how to use Snapchat. And he was like, no, you've got to be kidding me. Like, that is for kids and that's not for grown-ups. But he did. He came down and he showed me and I said, here's what's happening. This is the visualization. This is the imagery that's happening inside of my mind. And what I want to do is I want to recreate that imagery with bitmojis and emojis, the language that kids love, and annotate the text with the app. And he's like, okay, that's so nerd, but I will totally teach you how to do it. And so he did. And so we created this, and this one I just pulled out a quote, but then I started getting a little more meaningful and saying, like, what is it that I love about that quote? So then we birthed the Booksnaps. I'm going to try this. You're right. You have to show me where the spotlight is. I want to try that again. Not right now, though. Okay, so Booksnaps was birthed. I tried it. I made this Booksnap of Teach Like a Pirate. I sent it out onto Twitter and I wrote a blog about it. And that's it. It was kind of hidden in my blog and I was like, that's kind of a cool idea. And that was kind of the end of it. But Dave Burgess, the one that I made the first Booksnap, he saw this on Twitter and he's like, what is that? I love it. Will you guest blog on my blog, on my website? And I was like, the New York Times bestselling author, no, I don't think I'm ready for that. But he's like, no, you should. Seriously, I love it. So when we did this, it got a lot of eyes on it. And teachers all over the world started making meaning out of this idea of Booksnaps with their own content. And they started using it with children. We even have math snaps. We have all these cousins of Booksnaps now. We have math snaps. Culinary teacher in Oregon uses food snaps. But kids are taking and they're showing their learning with a language that they love, which is Snapchat. And then it started occurring to me. I was able to remember all these things about the book, even the page numbers. So I was like, why is that happening? Well, the truth is, it takes me back to undergraduate school when I was thinking about the phonological processors of learning. And so when you have all of these working together, what happens when all of these are firing properly, an image appears in your mind. And when the image appears in your mind, that's called imagery. But then when you take the right hemisphere of your brain and you recreate that imagery digitally, you take the content from the working memory and lodge it into the long-term memory. And that's why kids were able to remember parts around where they made the book snaps. They're like beginning, middle, and end. They could tell you parts around where they made the book snaps. And then you have children that were using all different apps. Like this is a totally different app. They're using Google Slides, Google Drawing, Seesaw, all different apps to show you where they pulled this piece out of the text and what it means to them with images. And so that's kind of how Booksnaps was birthed. These are a few of their examples. And now, this was August of 2016 that I tried this crazy idea. And now we have over 12 countries that utilize the strategy of Booksnaps and using many different apps to engage both hemispheres of the brain and take content, no matter if it's reading, writing, math, it doesn't matter, science, and kicking it into long-term memory. So I want to tell you one quick story about a little boy that I had no idea Booksnaps would be this. Remember, Booksnaps was, I was annoyed with my kid. I wanted to get it off his phone and just kind of was bored. But this little guy, I get these interesting emails and DMs all the time. And this one broke my heart. The library media specialist sent this to me and she said, you know, the 8th grade boy, in his Booksnaps, as he was posting them up on the Padlet, they upload them in Padlet so you can see the whole class. His looked different. It had a broken heart. It was dark, and that wasn't the novel they were reading, so it didn't really make sense to her. So she pulled him aside, and let's just call him Johnny for the sake of this video. She said, Johnny, is something wrong? Like, your Booksnaps look a lot different than the rest of your peers. And he said, actually, something is wrong. And then he went on to tell her how worthless he felt. And this little 8th grade boy actually had a plan to end his life. He shared all these things with his library media specialist, and she was able to get him the help that he needed. And it's very interesting because, and he's doing fine, by the way. I've checked on him and his parents have emailed me. It's a very interesting story. But that is not something I ever thought Booksnaps would do. But when we speak the children's language and we attach it with what they love, which is technology, with learning, we can learn a lot of things about them. So Booksnaps do speak. You have to listen to them though. And I think it's just amazing to know that it doesn't matter what the kids are doing, whatever's relevant for them as teachers, as educators, we need to try to figure out a way to make it meaningful to learning. And so we can shy away from all the social media because of what might happen, which happens a lot in districts. We're like, oh, not gonna go there, that might be a bad thing. Or we can just embrace it and teach kids the positive influences of social media. Honestly, I'm gonna choose the latter. Thank you for joining me.